All right, so let's think about what's going on right now. Republicans have passed a spending bill. That spending bill cuts $1 trillion from Medicaid and Medicare over the next decade. $1 trillion. That was going to pay for health care almost predominantly for the elderly. A lot of people don't know that 40% of Medicaid spending is on the elderly. Medicaid, 40%. Everyone thinks it's a bunch of poor black dudes and baby mamas, taking up all that welfare. That's not true. Medicaid is 40% elderly. Go look it up. Easy stat to research. A lot of people don't tell you that. All right, so they're cutting $1 trillion from that over the next decade. Why are they doing this? They need to pass a budget in order to unlock reconciliation, which allows them to do something with 50 votes. So no bipartisanship at all. You might get 1 or 2 Democrats. Okay? It's cheating. Now, Democrats did this to pass Obamacare. So, tit for tat, right? It's aggravating because somebody needs to stand up and say, I don't care what the other person did. I'm going to do what's right. I'm not going to justify doing what's wrong because the other guy did. Because it's an avalanche, and it's continuing, and it's going to continue, right? Everyone hates the state that we're in right now. But Democrats didn't own up and do anything to fix it, and neither are Republicans. So Republicans are unlocking reconciliation so they could cheat and pass this tax reform. Okay? So Democrats are running around saying that the tax reform is a handout to the rich. Right? I don't think that's entirely true because no one's seen it yet. Right? The guys on the committee, the Ways and Means Committee in the House, all right, the chairman of that committee, Brady, all right, he is leading the tax reform. So the Republican chairman of the tax committee, well, the committee that would oversee the taxes, right? The Republicans on that committee have not even seen the details of the bill, right? So no one knows what's in there except for an isolated group. They're going to roll out that bill and they're going to jam it through. They want to pass it in a week, okay? $1 trillion. 1 week. No oversight. No debate. I mean, how shady is that? You want to pass something where the American public doesn't have a chance to understand it, or where the critics don't have a chance to speak? It's pretty shady. All right, so what they're looking to do is a tax reform bill, and they're trying to say, all right, we're going to cut $1 trillion in spending on entitlements, and that's going to allow us to spend $1 trillion on tax cuts or tax spending. I think that's like Keynesian economics. You cut spending and it drives growth. Okay, so in theory it sounds pretty good. Now, one thing you're not really paying attention to though is, all right, cutting spending sounds good to stimulate the economy, but you have to look at context. Where are we at right now? Are we at a point where spending, taxation is so high that it's holding back growth, and we cut a little bit and it unlocks tremendous value and growth? Or have we been cutting and cutting and cutting over the decades, or even over the years, and we're at a point where you cut, but it's not going to drive people to make any different decisions? That money's going to go straight to the pockets of those in control of the companies, executives and activists, investors, on the stock ownership. Right, so a little context would help. I don't know that. I'm trying to research that. But it's funny because everyone's like, oh yeah, you cut taxes and the economy grows. That's not true, right? It's based on context. If you put food in front of someone, you say they're not going to be starving anymore. Well, were they starving, or were they just eat an all-you-can-eat buffet and they're about to crash, right? You need a little bit of context. So the problem, all right, so let me take a step back, right? These are just my thoughts. I like to get into the weeds, but I got to keep a high level too, because not everyone's total wonk about this kind of stuff. So they're trying to cut entitlements by $1 trillion to allow them to cheat the rules to pass this tax bill. A big part of what they're going after is the money that's parked overseas. So what is that? So look at Apple. Apple has over $100 billion in cash, right? I think it's like 150 or something like that. I haven't followed in a year or two, but it's a lot. And that money is made overseas. The problem is that they get taxed at such a high rate if they bring it back that they leave it overseas. Even if they could take that money, those profits they've earned in other countries, because they have operations in other countries, they have stores and whatever, right? They sell in other countries, they make profit in their business units there. That's how these large companies are set up. That's how you operate in today's global environment. All right, so the problem is that they have billions. Overall, there's over $1 trillion. I wouldn't be surprised if it's more than $2 trillion that companies have parked overseas that they're not bringing back because it's going to be taxed at such a high rate. But if they bring that money back, there's so much they can do with it. They can pay their employees more. They can invest in higher tech equipment to be more efficient. It's endless. Open up more plants for economies of scale. But they're not doing it because they say that the rate is too high. So this tax bill, in part, is for the repatriation. You may have heard that word. They're trying to repatriate those dollars, lower the taxable amount just a little bit this one time, and encourage all these companies to bring that money back. So cut $1 trillion in spending. All right, we're going to reduce some rates where we would lose money in hopes that that money goes to the economy and offsets that reduced government revenue over a long period of time. Okay, now I'm picking and choosing. This is complex. This is hours worth of conversation. But one area in particular that bothers me a lot, or I see huge opportunity, is this money that's parked overseas, right? In today's world, we are so distracted with Russia and, Obamacare and Harvey Weinstein, all these scandals, right? I mean, this stuff is important. That's why it's in the news. But it's just nonstop. And there's no conversation about the policies and the details and the facts. And everyone's so foaming at the mouth. They hate each other. You can't have a civil conversation. You can't respectfully disagree, but still educate each other and move forward, right? But, there's huge opportunity here. What if we could offer some kind of tax break where we said, all right, we're going to lower the tax rate for you to bring that money back only if you increase your wages, or you invest into your workforce, or you do something that has those dollars go to the middle class. Or we have two rates. One rate for those who just want to bring the money back and do whatever they want with it, which is lower than the existing rate, but maybe a lower rate, possibly a rate lower than what we're thinking about right now. So a bonus juicy rate for companies who want to prove that they're investing in the middle class. And some companies will use that as a marketing campaign or something like that, right? Here's my fear. We're so distracted. You have executives and the private equity and just big shareholders, right? Powerful people who have a lot of control of these companies. And they can benefit because they can do stuff that the rest of us aren't really able to pay attention to because we're so distracted with this constant reel of crisis and controversy and drama. So those guys are in a position to bring all that money back and reward their executives for the work that they've done, right? Bonus, stock incentives, right? Driving up the stock price, stock buybacks and other programs like that, increased dividends, all this money that takes that $1 trillion plus that's parked overseas and funnels it to the 1%. All right, now these are good people. I'm not saying that they're all a bunch of corrupt, guys with cigars and dark, shady rooms doing shady stuff. But, if no one's paying attention, a lot of that money is going to go to their pockets because it's money that they, why wouldn't you take $1 billion if no one's looking, right? Or if you have pressure, right? And you only have pressure that money goes to the top. No one's pressuring you to send it down below. Maybe you send a little bit. But how much more could we do if we encouraged people to take that money and invest it in the middle class? Because isn't that why we're cutting $1 trillion from healthcare, which again really goes to the elderly? We're cutting that so we can bring the money back and invest in our middle class and help our country, achieve faster growth. So why don't we put in some things that can help guarantee that, right? I mean, that's what we're doing it for anyways. So what's the harm in saying and putting some measures in there and holding ourselves accountable? So that's my thoughts for today on taxes. Again, there's a lot of details. I'm just picking one particular area, but I'm picking this because I can clearly see the high dollar amount and the big opportunity. So I'm very interested if anyone has any thoughts or can point to any studies or news about people thinking about this kind of thing, if they say it's realistic, if they say it's unrealistic, or other aspects of the tax plan that you'd like to speak to, because I think it's very interesting and it's important. All right, guys, thanks.